Hello, I'm testing a new live stream in a new area. Oh, it's a bit cold tonight. Anybody there? Anybody there? Please come and join the live stream. I am here. I'm just setting up the camera a bit better. I probably should have done this beforehand, but never mind. I am Bragi. I'm indeed a Viking. Oh, it's very cold tonight. I may have to put some coal on the fire. And tonight I'm going to read some segments from this book, and we'll talk about Viking clothes from this book. But first of all, we'll wait to see anybody joins up, and I'll sort out my boat system, because you cannot hang about your house without having a good old sea axe on your boat, in case you get invaded by some Normans or Saxons. You never know, this day and age. In fact, this is the first time I've actually put this knife on a boat. So, and we are filming today in somewhere slightly different in the house. I thought I'd try to film from the lounge, where I can keep warm by the fire. But we'll wait to see if anybody joins first. This could be a roaring success, or it may be a complete failure. That was a failure. I forgot to put it through the first loop. I thought I did. There we go. Now, this is just me bolting up my knife. You've got two loops, you can see there and there, and I'm just threading my bolt through, and eventually I can wrap it round my coat I'm wearing, purely to keep warm. And I thought I'd put a knife on, because it's not the same without a knife, is it? Although if you're in a long house, would you be wearing a knife all the time? Well, probably not. A lot of long houses have the wall where you have to take your weapons off and put them on a weapons rack at the entrance of the doorway, especially in great halls, and mead halls, and places where the High Witan was going to meet, which is like a council of the Vikings. And we'll drag out my Thor's hammer, so you know I am indeed a Viking. And we'll see if anybody joins this live stream. Of course, I could be here on my own. And then the idea of today's live stream is I'm going to read you some segments from this book, which I find quite interesting, and I think you'll find it interesting too. And depending how long we go for, I may get into the second segment of this live stream, which is talking about Viking clothes, which is always a fascinating subject as I poke the fire to keep warm. This could be a good setting in the future for having folk tales and stories told. Oh yes, that's nicely firm on my bolt. I noticed that my Anglo-Saxon toilet set or Viking has come off. It'll be a great opportunity for me to clean my nails up as a weight. Well, I've got a cup of tea to drink whilst I think about it. Lovely. It's gone cold. But I don't mind cold tea, because when you're thirsty, you'll drink almost anything. And I am rather thirsty. I hope you like the videos I put out today. There's a little mixture of videos from what about an unusual weapon of the Viking Age, which is the Viking blacksmith hammer. Because we often think, you know, they had a variety of tools, you know, from adze to throws to tongs. Would you use a pair of metal tongs in battle? I think that's a whole debate for another story and another video and live stream. You can certainly defend yourself with a pair of tongs, and you could probably whack somebody around the head with a pair of tongs. You don't know what a pair of tongs is, basically what blacksmiths use to hold their hot metal. But would that be used in battle? Certainly I would imagine a good warhammer, or a good blacksmith hammer in this case, you know, would be used. And would that go back to the Iron Age? Probably so. Let's face it, you know, from the Iron Age they had all these tools. And it's funny how tongs and hammers haven't really changed to the point of today, where people are still making tongs to the same design that the Vikings had metal tongs, made out of iron of course, and you know, to the same design. Of course, Vikings didn't have hankies, so you have to write your face on your sleeve. And because that's where cufflinks and buttons on your sleeve came from in the later part of the 19th century, to stop you from doing that. That's why when you buy a suit, you always have 4 or 5 buttons on the sleeve. It's there basically to stop you from wiping your face on the sleeve. As some people say, well, that's a you know, a common thing to do, and even outrageous. We've got plenty of wood down here, just in case I need to put some wood on the fire, and I've even got some coal. So we'll wait for somebody to join. If not, I'll continue on this live stream. Will just be a live stream on my own. Oh, I get to hang out with myself. Me, myself and Bragi. Hello Bragi, hello Bragi. How are you today, Bragi? I'm very good, thank you. What have you been up to today, if you're watching this live stream after it's gone public? This is a stone hearth, sandstone, probably from Derbyshire. It's a good old hearth and a good old fire, and I do actually cook on this fire. And I think, you know, we'll talk about why fires are quite essential to have in your house. Because let's face it, in this day and age where you can get power cuts, and the price of gas and the price of electricity is very high, this is coal, it makes sense to have a fire in your house. And I don't mean literally just go and make a big fire in the middle of the house, because you're going to burn your house down. But having a stove, I think, is quite an essential thing to have in this modern age. And especially if you live in a smokeless area compared to a smokeless area, a non-smokeless area. As I do live in one of those areas where I can have a fire. But the government are trying to ban wood stoves. I was reading last year or this year the papers that the government by 2025 want to ban all wood stoves in the UK by 2025. And they're going to enforcedly go around to your house and take them out. But somehow I just don't see the British public the owners of wood stoves actually putting up with that. And of course, you can boil your water on there. If you're not, I do boil water most days. I've got a kettle. It's a bit dusty, it needs cleaning. So you can boil your water, because as they say, it costs about £1 to heat the kettle up, depending how much water is in the kettle. So again, that's a very good reason and excuse why you could have a wood stove in your house. Because let's face it, you know, we live in a day and age where we can get power cuts, and if there's a power cut for more than a few days, then how are you going to heat your water? How are you going to cook your food? Do you want to rely on trusting the government to come round and cook your food for you? I don't. I mean, the Conservatives couldn't be organised. They piss up in a brewery, let alone manage to feed the whole of the UK. If that was a major disaster, let's say, you know, we had a major fault in the electrical system, or a number of power stations went down, and there wasn't enough power for everybody, so they had to ration it. And there is plans to ration electricity, and it's quite scary. When I was watching a video on YouTube about it, and the guy, can't remember his name, often forget people's names when I need to remember, but I know his last name's Ward, but he'll show you the chart of how in the UK they would ration electricity. So at first, you know, it'll be out for an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening, and then it'll be like 2 hours in the morning and 2 in the afternoon and 2 in the evening. And it gets to the, you know, the worst stage, or the best stage would be you probably have a couple hours a day with no electricity. But the worst stage is that you'll have 2 or 3 hours a day with electricity, and the rest of the time you have no electricity. So having a wood stove to heat yourself throughout winter, because let's face it, you know, if you don't have electricity and you don't have gas and you can't heat your house, a lot of people would suffer and die from, you know, the cold. So it's quite essential to have a stove, I'd say. And I wouldn't live in a house without a wood stove. But again, the price of, you know, logs has gone up, and you know, the price of coal has also gone up quite a lot. And it's okay if you're a hoarder and you got that sort of thing around and you stored it for many years, but most people are living on the edge of tomorrow and today, or today and tomorrow, and so therefore they don't have the capital and the money to do that. So right, just had a message from Rob Napier, so that's good. So yes, I'll have to read that later on. So, Scandinavian Mythology, a book by H.R. Ellis Davidson. I do recommend this book. It's a very good book. I bought this off eBay. And let's have a look. Have I put my name in it? Yes, like all books, I always write my name in a book. Now some people say, you know, if you're a if you're into collecting books, I'm trying to think of the name of somebody that collects books. It's folio something. You should not always put your name in books, especially if you've got a rare first edition. So let's say, you know, you got a first edition signed by a famous author, and you should probably not put your book in that name, your name in that book. But yeah, but I tend to put my name, you know, write the date when I bought it and where I bought it from and how much, and I tend to do that with most books. And I think I paid £4.99 for this of eBay, and it's a pretty good book. Maybe slightly outdated, I don't know, but H.R. Ellis Davidson, and that's an author recommended to me by T.K. Thorkelsson, is a very good author. And on the back here I have a picture of a very nice buckle. So perhaps people aren't getting this notification about the live stream because I put out quite a few videos today. But we'll have a look and we'll read a segment from this book. And of course this will go live afterwards when I publish it. So let's read about the religion of the North for a little bit and read a few paragraphs. So the mythology of the North, however, goes back long before the Vikings. Beginning of may seen in the Scandinavian Bronze Age, which lasted for over 1,000 years. So 1,000 years, you know, a millennium of the Viking pre-Bronze Age, and that's quite an achievement and an amazing thing. So 1600 to 450 BC. In this period, enormous advances in art and craftsmanship were made in Scandinavian lands, as it was shown by the fine works on metal and stone which have survived into our own time. And we should be thankful for that, because if we don't have that evidence, we would not know so much about the early Bronze Age in Scandinavia. It is in the Bronze Age that the first time we discern recognisable figures of gods and goddesses. So that will be the time, and it will be more of a shamanic culture, I would probably say, because shamanism is a very trending thing throughout the world, and you know, that's fascinating in itself. Whether there's much evidence for that, because again, a lot of these things and thoughts and evidence is lost to time. And to catch a glimpse of the myth and ritual, although no written sources survive to tell us of what language the worshippers spoke, then after an obscure period about which archaeology can tell us very little, well, hopefully by now we'll know more, came a second epoch. And an epoch is a change in time or an advancement in time. So time suddenly became different in the sense of there was advancement, like a classical epoch is the Renaissance. Another classical epoch would be the Industrial Age. So, rich in religious symbolism, the time of transition when all Western Europe was firmament. This period, generally known as the Migration Period, lasted from about the 3rd to 6th centuries AD. It was the time of the destruction of the Roman Empire, when the Celtic and Germanic peoples were moving westwards and northwards, bringing with them new religious cults and symbols and fresh viewpoints in the gods. It is then that the cult of Rodin, or Odin, the fierce god of death and battle, inspiration and magic lore, flourished in the north. Still, we have no written sources other than brief runic inscriptions, but we have a number of accounts by Greek and Latin writers. And again, the Greeks and the Latins we should be thankful for, because they did travel quite a distance and they did write things down, and since, you know, hence we have those wonderful sources. And of course, this book was published. Let's just go back and check so we can see how old this book is, and then perhaps we'll look for another book in my collection in the future and try to get an updated point of view of Scandinavian mythology. So this book was published in 1969, which is over 50 years ago. So in 50 years, I'd imagine an awful lot has changed, but yet this is still a very good book. And one of the invaluable books written by the Roman historian Tacitus at the end of the first, I'll flip the page, century AD, he was sufficiently impressed by what he learned concerning the Germanic peoples on the borders of the empire to write an account of their way of life. The evidence of archaeology and heroic poetry indicate that this way of life continued during the migration period, much as he described it. And if you never read any of the books by Tacitus, then I do recommend, you know, reading them, because they're a valuable source, and he was a very clever and well-written man. So yes. So the Germans lived in a small warrior tribes under aristocratic leaders, sometimes followed them to new kingdoms in search of adventure and plunder, and lands on which to settle. They were proud of their oral tradition. So oral tradition is when you pass down stories from one kin to the next kin, from one generation to the other. So proud of their oral tradition about the kings and the heroes of the past. They hold high ideals of courage and in battle, and loyalty in their leaders and to the kindred, you know, your kin. So it's an old word and an old thing is having kindred. They respected and honoured their womenfolk and valued traditional laws which were believed to have been established by the gods they worshipped. So again, very much like the Christian God who gave Moses the tablet, in traditions of Germanic gods of Woden and Odin and such like, they believe that the laws they lived by were, created by the gods themselves. Because in Viking Norse mythology, they have a god of justice and laws, and that is the god Forseti, and he's a god that is often overlooked. But of course, how far in time does Forseti actually go and go back in time is another question for another day. So, yes. So our standing deities rolled the battlefield and extorted heavy sacrifices from their worshippers, gave them good seasons, rich crops and prosperity, and had powers over the realm of the sky, the thunder, and the life-bringing rain. So again, the seasons and weather was very important to our old ancestors, because they believed they was associated with the gods, very much like Sif, who is associated with fertility and wheat and plants, and like Thor, who was associated with rain and thunder, or Thunar to the Anglo-Saxons. They were conscious also of the grim underworld, where the giants and the monsters dwelt. And again, it's very similar to heaven in such a way, because in hell, in hell, in Christian hell, they believe there's demons and monsters. Whether they believe there's giants there, I'm not certain about, but I'd imagine that as a similar kind of a trait, because don't forget, Christianity borrowed a lot of the myths and the beliefs from the older religions and took the good elements of that and moved forward, which makes sense. And of the constant threat to the precarious little world once the forces of chaos were unleashed. But we don't want to unleash the forces of chaos on this world, because it's already a bit chaotic. The experience of savage world in which kingdoms were constantly set up and destroyed, with the background of stormy seas and long cold winter nights, gave a sombre tinge to the picture of the realm of the gods. But at the same time, it imparted a sturdy figure to the figures who people their myths. And at the end of the migration period, small settled kingdoms were established in Scandinavia and Britain, once of the most impressive being that of the upland kings of Sweden, whose burial place was centre of sanctity in the 7th century. The Anglo-Saxons, who were converted early to Christianity, as were the continental Germans, but in Scandinavia, paganism lived on for several centuries and received a new impetus in the vigorous period of adventure and conquest known as the Viking Age. And boy oh boy, we should be thankful for the Viking Age and the history they have given us, because where would history be? I think history would be quite dull if we did not have the Vikings and the Viking Age. But let's not also forget the colourful age of the Vendels and the colourful age of the Anglo-Saxons, but we should always remember the Jutes and remember the Angles and the Frisians as well, because they often get overlooked by the later Anglo-Saxons. And of course, Anglo-Saxons is the Angles and the Saxons put together, who took over Britain and made it their own lands. But then the Angles, again, they get overlooked. So, going back to the book, and nobody's joined yet, so never mind. I'm enjoying reading this on my own, and you can watch this afterwards, and I'll probably live stream for an hour. If nobody joins in 30 minutes, I will be going to go and sit by the fire and keep warm. But this is just a kind of a test to see whether actually reading on camera actually works, because I think it would do. I've always been a little bit reluctant to read on camera, simply because it seems a bit like a cheat and a bit easy to do. And probably today I got a bit of my voice isn't as good as it should be, because I did a long live stream yesterday for 4 hours, and when you're talking for 4 hours non-stop, it does affect your voice the next day. And of course, I've already been making videos today, and I could hear myself being a bit croaky in some of the videos I was trying to do a voiceover for. So, going back to the book, by H.R. Ellis Davidson. And I'm trying to read it. I'm not trying to read it completely because I'm trying to make it my own, so I'm beating the copyright in case there is one. But again, and there's a very good picture, a wooden carving, probably of Rodin or Odin. And some people spell Odin with two N's at the end, and some people spell it with one. I tend to spell it with one N myself. And I'll describe it to you, this picture. Viking head carved in wood on the wagon from the Oseberg ship burial in Norway. So that's where that came from. And again, it shows the decoration that, you know, if you're prepared to go and put some decoration, mind the buzzing alarm. Buzzing along, it's buzzing along. Wish you had a day night so I could smash it in two, but it's annoying. It's not even time to get up yet. Yeah, I think we'll put some wood on the fire as we wait for the alarm to go past. I'll put this little chunky log on. We'll call it Olaf. Olaf the log is being burnt. Hail Olaf. And this is a bit of pine, so we'll call it Pete. And I did have a metal pokey stick. You definitely need one of these for a fire. If you haven't got one of them, just use a wooden stick. It'll soon disappear, this alarm, as it's doing my little head in. Oh, there you go. So back to the book. The problem with reading on camera, you've got to look down, and it's not very bright in here, so I'm having to focus a bit more. And I'm getting to the stage where I need to get some reading glasses in the next few years. I'm probably past, I think I'm on the edge of needing reading glasses, so you'll have to bear with me as we find where we were. So as the Scandinavians ventured further afield in the 9th and 10th centuries in search of trade, adventure, piracy, or new homelands for the younger sons of their dispossessed, they carried their cults and their heathen gods with them. But at the same time they came under new influences from the lands to which their journeying led them. They learned something from the practice of their Christian neighbours, wearing the hammer of Thor as the Christians wore the cross, raising impressive stone memorials like those that they saw in their travels, possibly building temples or carved wood in emulation of the stone circles. The bloodthirsty cults of the eastern lands, which they reached by way of the Russian rivers, seem to have given them new enthusiasm for human and animal sacrifice, especially in honour of the god Odin, god of death and god of magic, who was still worshipped at Uppsala, along with Freya, the god of fertility, and Thor, or Thunor to the Anglo-Saxons, the ruler of thunder. The Vikings, poets and storytellers, do many good tales, both serious and comic. So humour is a very old thing, and the Vikings certainly knew a lot about humour. It does get you along in life. About these gods, so the new serious and comic tales about these gods and the powerful but fickle goddesses and the giants who continually sought to overthrow the kingdom of Asgard. So that's a little bit about, you know, the religions of the North. I hope you found that little segment interesting, but do you have any thoughts on that? If so, please leave them in the comment, and don't forget to go and boop and like the like button and share this live stream, even though I'm still on my own doing it because nobody's got a notification. Bad YouTube, very bad. You know, we'll carry on. So what else can we read about? And I won't read the whole book. It's not my intention to read you a whole book. But we'll look for various segments that are quite interesting. So we're going to read next about the sky god and the sun disk. So this axe must be associated with the god who ruled the sky and sent thunder and lightning. Now we often forget about Thor having an axe as well as a hammer, but I can never remember the name of his axe. If you know it, leave it in a comment for me, please. And he sent thunder and lightning, the life-giving rain, wherever the spear-bearing figure represented him in another aspect, the leader of battle and giver of victory. We do not know for certain, but it seems probable. These male figures wore the weapons in which they carry are connected consistently to the carvings with ships and horses. It seems that the primary myth of the Northern Bronze Age concerned with the wheeled wagon or chaotic of the sun journeying across the heavens, and also the ship of the sun, which is thought to have symbolized the sun journeys beneath the earth when it disappeared beneath the western sea. The belief is confirmed by the discovery of a small model of a wagon bearing a disc, beautifully ornamented with gilding on one side at Trondheim in Denmark. A horse was found with it, probably one of a pair, and these are references to the other finds of similar vehicles now lost, which is a shame. Wagons are frequently pictured on the rocks, drawn by honoured beasts, horned beasts or alone, and seem to be themselves sacred symbols. The disc once resembled a wheel, as shown continually, sometimes held up as if for ordination, and sometimes borne by tiny men like a shield, or given hands and feet. It is sometimes placed on or above a ship. The ships are also associated with both horses and birds. Models of chariots drawn by birds have been found in Central and Eastern Europe, and these may represent a different interpretation of the journey of the sun, which has influenced Scandinavian art, but been replaced in the north by a symbol of the wagon. It was in the Bronze Age that the wheel was first introduced into Scandinavia, and of course the wheel is a very old thing, and must have been itself a symbol of power. Indeed, the disc of the sun is often shown with spokes like a wheel. It is hardly surprising to find that the birds of the Bronze Age associated with the sun disk were water birds, the wild ducks and the swans, which could fly far and fast through the sky, and also swim and dive under the waves. The mysterious beauty of the sense of power conveyed by these wild birds in flight must have been very similar to Bronze Age man among the many marshes and rivers of Denmark and Sweden. And we often forget, Denmark and Sweden has a lot of marshes. It's not Sweden isn't just a mountainous land. Lots of marshes and bogs and rivers. So that's another interesting segment. And then next we'll talk about feasting in Valhalla, which I think is quite relevant with the very fact that our co-host Egil Thorson is now in Valhalla and having a jolly good time, I'd imagine. Oh yes. So I'm just going to get some modern Coca-Cola because I'm thirsty and have a swig out of this to the bottle. I know it's very lazy. There's no rum in that, unfortunately. And there we see another wooden carving, which is also quite fascinating. Looks quite an ugly character to me. Would like to meet him in a forest of Ents. So feasting in Valhalla. Although the Vikings didn't call it Valhalla, they called it Valhall, according to T.K. Thorkelson. And as he's an expert, so I do not doubt him. It is possible that the customs and the ideas behind them helped to establish the long literary tradition in Scandinavia of the feastings of warriors in Valhalla. Here reigned Odin, god of death and battle, the Woden of the Germans and the Woden of the Anglo-Saxons. So the Germans called him Woden, and the Anglo-Saxons called him Woden. So one spelled with an A, and one spelled with an E at the second letter, or the penultimate letter. Who has given his name to the 4th day of the week in Scandinavia and the English-speaking countries. Well, it's the 3rd day in England, Woden's Day, and I think that's slightly wrong in my mind, but hey-ho. He was pleased to welcome into the hall warriors who died a heroic death or on the battlefield. Each night they feasted on joints of pork from a boar whose flesh never gave out. Well, I love one of those boars. And drank massive amounts of mead. The day was spent in fighting, but every night those who have fallen will rise up again to partake in the feast. In the literature, the reason given for Odin's hospitality was that he was collecting a mighty host from among the noble dead to follow him to the last great battle, when the gods would have to fight the survival against monsters and giants. His special champions, the Aegir, led the ranks of his warriors on that day, and of course they are talking about Ragnarok. And here we see the sun dish, what we were talking about earlier, and the horse and the wagon. So you can put a picture to what I was talking about, and I think that's fantastic. And of course made in bronze, would have been cast in a number of pieces, and you can see the gilding on the disc itself, because it's slightly fallen off in places, which that's a talent itself to gild metal. And just think that they had wheels and the ability to make carts is quite amazing, but also the horse and cart is a fascinating and important thing because it was an element of trade, and you can see why they talk about it being a source of power, because you know you could move your men about, you can move your gold about, and you can move your power about on a cart, whereas you're limited what you can carry on a horse. So that's a little bit of reading from the channel. Now I think I'm going to probably end this very shortly because nobody's joining, and I'm a bit tired, and I'm just doing this as a test piece. But before I go, we'll go and talk about some Viking clothes, and I saw a segment here about gloves, so bear with me whilst I try to find it. And this is the book Dressing Anglo-Saxon England, and it's by Gail R. Owen Croker, and it's a very good book. I've not read all of it yet because I never have time to read a lot of books, I'm always busy, but what I have read I've thoroughly enjoyed so far. We're going to talk about gloves, because last night we were talking about gloves, and when I find a segment I saw earlier, I will read it very quickly and make it into my own interpretation so that I'm beating the copyright of any book, because I'm not sure. Oh look, some brachiotex, oh they're nice. Jewellery, we're getting closer. Let's have a look at the index, just bear with me a moment. I might be able to find it there. But it's a very good book. I bought this off eBay as well, from a Viking who was selling a lot of stuff. And I thought to myself, well, I must have that book in my life. I'm not sure how much I paid. I think it was between £10 and £20. And in my mind, it was worth it because it has altogether, well, nearly 400 pages. And that's an amazing amount of source and information. So here are gloves. So did the Vikings and did the Anglo-Saxons and the Jutes and the Frisians and so forth have gloves? And in this main segment we're going to concentrate on the Vikings and the Saxons. So gloves were certainly in use in England by the 8th century. Since a anecdote on the Old English life of Saint Guthlac, which derives from Felix Lating's life concerning the loss of a pair of gloves belonging to a brother named Wilfrid. And I haven't heard of that tale, and I do know it, not off by heart, but I know it enough to tell it at some point on camera, but not today. falconers would have worn gauntlets, and one such glove is depicted on the Bewcastle cross, which is probably 8th century. So again, if you're handling birds of prey, you have to wear a gauntlet. It is much thicker than a glove, because let's face it, a gauntlet is designed on purpose to stop the claws of the birds of prey getting through and scratching and hurting your hand, and that's the last thing you want as a Saxon, to have injuries on your hand, especially if you're using your right hand and you're dominant in your right hand. Although it does beg the question of people who in the times of the Vikings and the Saxons were right-handed or left-handed. I mean, was there such a concept? Now, in the Viking shield wall, it is always, you have your shield in your left hand and your arm, sword or axe or knife in your right hand. So did they have the concept of being left or right-handed? Because let's face it, one of the reasons why we have the concept in the modern age of left and right-handed people, because some people will write with the left hand, where most people will write with the right hand. And this is partly because most people are left-brained, and a lot of people are right, and some people are right-brained, and therefore they can write with the left hand. And of course, there is also a small minority like myself who are ambidextrous, and I can write with my left hand, even though I'm right-handed. I just can't write as fast. So the gauntlet is on the hand of the figure in the bottom panel, which probably represents Saint John the Evangelist, accompanied by a symbol, the eagle, thus balancing the figure of Saint John the Baptist in the upper panel. But the fact that the eagle is some kind of a perch, and the human figure wears the gauntlet, suggests that the secular patron may also be represented here. It is a kind of double interpretation which is not unusual in the Anglo-Saxon Christian iconography. Surprisingly, gloves or gauntlets do not appear to have been worn in battle, and that's an interesting point and fact. But you know, you probably got a better grip using your sword without a glove, to be fair. But in modern re-enactment, you certainly want to wear an armoured glove to protect your hand, because let's face it, we're fighting for a different purpose. In modern re-enactment, we're putting on a show and a display, so you're not fighting for your life. Whereas in a Viking and Anglo-Saxon battle, Saxons versus the Vikings, then you are fighting for your life, and so you probably would want to have a better grip by not having a glove on your arm, or on your hand even, not your arm. So archaeological evidence from the continent demonstrates that gloves could be extremely elaborate, so you know, very highly made and decorated is what they're talking about. The old monastic cemetery at Oberflach in Germany yielded remains of leather gloves lined with soft cloth and laced at the back of the hand. So again, it's talking about a glove which is lined with a nice soft fabric. So you know, a lot of manufacturing to make that, and then has decoration on the glove. So you know, that's quite interesting. Whilst the Frankish ministerial burial in Cologne had on his left hand a glove of cow leather decorated with closely placed strips resembling seams, and on the right hand a deer skin glove with the ridge and groove ornament and pattern of indications. So yeah, about the period the word glove was in common use. Hand skio mitten may have become an acronym, only used as a man's name and in a place name. So again, they had mittens as well. So there's a little bit of evidence talking about gloves there for you as well. So I hope you found that interesting, that we talked a little bit about Scandinavian mythology, and of course from these videos and live streams I'll be able to make short videos from this. So it's also a very good way for me to make videos, and hopefully you won't see my modern jumper because you know, I just put this on the top because it makes me look like a Viking. But like I said, I often wear this around the house, not with a knife though. I often, you know, have it loose and I wear it like a dressing gown, even though it's a little bit big. So I hope you find that fascinating and interesting, and I will partly be going because nobody's joining the live stream, and I've got to be up early in the morning. So until the next time we meet, and I don't know when the next live stream will be. I don't think it will be tomorrow night because I'm going to have a few things to do. So maybe on Saturday, if I'm not tired and I've got some time, I will try to announce a live stream on the channel and plan it a little bit better, because I think if I plan the live streams in the future, rather than just you know, suddenly appear on YouTube as I lay back in my chair, I could do a live stream where I sleep, couldn't I? You know, for 2 hours. Yeah, Bragi asleep on camera again. But yes, we'll try to plan the live streams in future, and then we'll do regular live streams, and perhaps have at least one day a week where we'll do a live stream, probably on a Wednesday, and just try to do a good period of a few months of doing live streams to build up the amount of live streams we've got on the channel. But it is a very good way to normally spread the word when people actually watch and join in. But I think one of the problems with YouTube is that they limit you to the amount of notifications you get. So therefore, because I've already put out 6 videos today and 3 community posts, I've probably gone over the limit, and they say, no, Bragi, you can't have any more notifications, so we're not going to notify anybody that you're on live at the moment. But yes, that's the way that goes. I can't think of anything else I've got to say. I mean, I have just telegraphed I mentioned this a few minutes ago. You probably all got it if you're watching this, the post-publication of it. Ah, lovely. Sugar. I'm not calling you sugar, I'm just talking about the sugar in here. Sugar. Now, can't think much more to say. Perhaps I'll end it on a story, because I love a good story. So it'll be a Scandinavian story from Denmark, and it's called The Ale of the Trolls. A long time ago, in the land of Denmark, during the times of the Vikings and the times of the Anglo-Saxons, when the Vikings were raiding across Europe, especially Britain and Ireland and Francia and even Spain, where the Visigoths lives, there was a man, and his name was Halfdan, for he was a very tall fellow. And Halfdan was quite wealthy. He lived in a longhouse and had quite a bit of land. He had woods, he had some hilly areas and hills and rocky outcrops. He lived not far from the sea, so he had a coastal line so he could go fishing, and on the land he grew crops, and he lived a good life. He's getting old in age because he's been raiding for many, many years, and now he sends out his sons to go raiding to get gold and silver and bring back slaves and silks and mead and all the good things you bring back from a raid. And he had a daughter who was getting married. And so, you know, for a long time they planned the wedding, you know, and as a Viking you want to show off your wealth. You know, it's not good enough having your arms up to here with silver bands. You want to show off your wealth and invite all your neighbours to come and join in the celebration of the wedding. And so he did this, you know, he sent people out. He had servants, they went out on horsebacks and walked, and they went and invited all the neighbours in the area. You know, and some of them travelled a good distance, because it's not like today where we live next door to each other. Some people lived a few leagues away, some of his friends and neighbours lived 20, 30 leagues away. But yet everybody knew each other in the area. And the Halfdan was a very well-known Viking in this area, and so everybody wanted to come to the wedding. And so the wedding was going to be held in the summertime, a good time and a good season for a wedding. And the wedding took place, but then afterwards they had a big party, a big celebration. And so, he got all the mead and beer and ale and cider, and he even got some good wine from Francia, Frankish wine of the best quality. He spent a lot of silver coin to celebrate his only daughter's wedding. And his daughter was marrying a nobleman, a man of the same quality of her father. He too was wealthy and came from a very good family. And he lived in a massive long house, some say the biggest in the area, with many side rooms, and in the middle a large hearth, a large fireplace. And so all the people came and they watched the wedding, the hand fasting by one of the high local priests. And then they started to enjoy themselves afterwards, and they had a big, hog roast or a boar roast, and venison, beef and lamb, and fish, and all the wonderful cheeses and fruits. Oh, you can imagine it now, all the tables set out and the mead benches and the glorious, glorious food and celebration they had. And it was well into the evening when suddenly there was a knock at the door. And so Halfdan, being the man of the house, the householder, the house husband, the huskarl, went and answered the door, thinking that would be one of his neighbours arriving late. How rude would that be? He should come earlier when the wedding was taking place, as he was walking to the door. And so he opened the door, he unlatched it with a large wooden latch. And it was a double door, so he opened the double door up, because it was a very large longhouse indeed. Like I said, the largest in the area. And to his surprise, what do you think he saw? Do you think he saw one of his neighbours, Old Eric? Hello, I've come to, I'm a bit late, sorry, here's a present. No, he wasn't old Eric, he's already there, he was drunk in the back. He's been playing, spin round the day nats and got a bit so merry, drinking all the mead. No, it wasn't one of his neighbours, one of his friends. To his horror and surprise, it was a mighty troll. And, trolls are very ugly, he had a very big nose and big eyes, massive ears and spots all over his face. And to his surprise, the troll spoke. He thought, hey up, which is a saying in Derbyshire for hello. He thought, yes, hey up, is a troll at the door come to cause trouble, he thought, thinking they're going to have to go arm himself very quickly and fight a big troll. But no, to his surprise, the troll spoke. He said, hello, I'm the troll that lives on your land, and tonight we are having a wedding, but we have run out of beer. And I thought to myself, where can I get some beer from? And I could have gone and stolen some, but that's not the right thing to do on a wedding day. So I thought I'd ask you if I could borrow a barrel of beer. Well, to his surprise, Halfdan said, yes, of course you could have a barrel of beer. And he called one of his servants over, Olaf, and Olaf came. He saw the troll and nearly shut himself. What is it, Lord? There's a troll at the door. He said, Olaf, you must go and get a barrel of beer, one of the good ones, and bring it to me right away. So Olaf said, all right, my lord. And, half scared out of his wits after seeing a troll. I'm sure you agree, if you're not a brave man and you just see a big troll, you may just crap your pants, poo your pants. He didn't do that, of course, because he was very much in control, was Olaf, and he was a good servant, and he'd been working and serving Halfdan, his lord, for many years, and he paid him well, did his lord Halfdan. And so Olaf came back with a barrel of beer and handed it over to Halfdan, and Halfdan said, here's your barrel of beer. And the troll spoke these words, said, in 7 days' time, when I have brewed some beer, I will come back and I will knock at your door and give you a barrel of beer in return. Now Halfdan thought that was a good bargain because he's not losing anything. He was going to get a barrel of beer made by a troll because he didn't know what it would taste like. So he was quite inquisitive. And he sent the troll on its way, and the big troll, who will remain nameless, went back to the troll wedding. You know, and they lived in a big cave in the rocky outcrop, some distance away, on Halfdan's land, and they had rustic furniture of wood, and a big fire in the centre, and big logs, and all the trolls in the area came, and very much like a wedding of the humans. It was very similar, you know, they invited all the friend trolls along. There were short trolls and big trolls and fat trolls and ugly trolls. Most trolls are ugly, to be fair, you know. And you know, they had a good time, and they cracked open the barrel of beer, and they got sloshed, drunk all night. Now Halfdan, not thinking much about the troll coming back, because he didn't think he would do. He thought, well, you know, you can't trust a troll. Trolls don't give the word. But he never really had much dealing with trolls. He's normally been fighting them and killing them. That's what you do as a Viking. You see a troll, you're going to fight it, aren't you? And take all of its gold and silver, if it's not being magically enchanted by some magic. Because, you know, trolls are like that. Very clever. A week passed. And of course the wedding was at the weekend on a Saturday, the day of the Norns, to the Vikings. And it was early evening, and then as I get a stick, there was a knock 4 times at the door. And luckily, you know, Olaf at the door had a little peephole which he managed to, you know, to make with auger, a drill. So he looked out and he saw the troll there with a big barrel of beer. So he opened up the door and latched it with double latch, and it even had a large metal bar going across it. He pulled that up and over and put it to one side and opened the door. And the troll, the ugly troll with the big eyes and the big bulbous nose and the big flappy ears and the spots on his face and the horrible manky teeth, and manky is a word for not nice, gave him a big barrel of beer. But before he went, the troll said, "You can drink this beer, and it will last forever, and the barrel will never run dry. But you must never, never, never look into the barrel itself. Never open the barrel, or the magic of this barrel will disappear, and you will have no more beer." Well, at first, you know, Halfdan didn't really believe it. He thought, well, a barrel of beer that never runs dry? That's the thing of the gods, that is. Thinking about Thor, you know, having a drinking contest with the giants when he was trying to drink a vessel of wine or beer, and it never emptied. And in fact, he was drinking the ocean. So he thought to himself, well, that can't be true. But he thought nothing about it. He took the beer off the troll, and the troll strolled away into the distance back home, and they never saw each other ever again in their lives. And he put the beer barrel on a table. It was a round beer barrel, because all beer barrels are round, and it was, you know, it was hooped with wood, so fastened up, and there was a tap, and he managed to get a large holder and put it on the holder so it was facing sideways so he could try the beer. And at first he was a bit reluctant to try the beer. He sat and thought about it for an hour. Do I really, you know, want to try this beer I got from a troll? You know, he sat down, you know, he stroked his chin like we do when we're thinking, what should we do? Should we try? I'm going to try the beer. So he got his favourite vessel out, you know, not like a mug like this, but, you know, a good vessel of silver. Because, like I said, Halfdan was very rich. And he got the tap, and he opened the tap, and the beer poured into the silver cup. And he shut it off. But he didn't want to waste any beer, and he didn't really believe the fact that, you know, the beer would never run dry. Even though it reminded him of the story of Thor drinking with the giants at Helheim. Or was it? I forget. No, it wasn't. And so he dried the beer. He had a little sip. You know, he smelt it first. Oh, that smells all right. Oh, yeah, that smells like a good IPA. You know, good pale ale, nice and blonde as well. So he tried a little sip. Oh, wonderful that is. As soon as he tried one little sip, he downed and drowned the whole cup in one go. Oh, he says, that's the best beer I've had in my life. He quickly got up out of his big chair, big throne, you know, at the end of the room, so he could overlook everybody, with all the benches around him, because he was very prominent in his position or where he sat. You would do if you're rich and wealthy and you was a Viking. And so, he went over to the barrel and he got another silver, cup, but this one a much bigger one, hold about 3 pints. Wow. And he poured out 3 pints. And he drank that. It didn't last more than a couple of minutes. Not that they had any concept of minutes in those times. By the time he drunk another 3 or 4 cups full, the sun had set. And then all the servants came in after the day's work and he said, "Oh, you guys, Thorgrim and Olaf and Eirik, you should all try this beer I got from this troll." And they all said, "Oh, did you get the beer from the troll then?" Oh, he had, he gave his word and he did it. Wow, they're all amazed. And they all got various cups. Olaf got an old, bone cup, made from a horn. And, Thorgrim got an old metal cup he got on a raid, probably from a Christian monastery. And, old Eirik, he got a wooden vessel, a big one like that. And they all opened up the tap of the beer barrel and all poured themselves a beer. And they all sat round, next to, Halfdan on lower benches because they weren't as important as him. And they tried the beer. "Oh, so that's the best beer we've had in our lives," they all agreed. And they all got up and they took the cup of Halfdan and brought him another 3 pints worth. And they all night drank the beer. And Halfdan says, "The troll said to me that this beer barrel would never run dry." Well, he was a wise man. And he'd been drinking beer all his life. And he knew the size of the barrel, and he could probably guess the amount of pints or cups of beer there would be. And he thought, well, between 4 or 5 of us, and there was about 4 of his servants, and then his uncle came and he sat down. So between all of us, we should empty this barrel of beer tonight and drink it dry. So that was the challenge. And so they kept on going up, having more beer and drinking it back, getting a bit of food as well. They had a bit of venison and a bit of boar cooking over the hearth. So they ate well and they drank well. And they got to the end of the night when they were all pretty much drunk. And the Halfdan got up and said, "I'm going to try the barrel to see how heavy it is." And he tried to lift the barrel and he lifted it, but he said, "It's not changed. This barrel weighs the same as it when it came in." Well, the men couldn't believe this. "Oh, you're lying, Halfdan. It's got to be half empty by now, or even nearly empty." Of course, the best part of the barrel is the bit in the middle. The top part is always a bit vinegary, and the bottom part is always a bit vinegary and a bit bitter. So the best part of any beer barrel is the middle bit. But yet the beer tasted all the same all the way through. And so the next day came, and they said, "Well, we're going to have a proper good job today and a good go at finishing this barrel off." So instead of working, he gave all of his servants and his friends a day off, because he had friends who lived on his land and rented houses, and they all came. Everybody heard about this barrel of beer. All the men came from all around, and they were drinking all day, thinking that they're going to empty this barrel of beer, this barrel of ale. But again, they could not empty this barrel of beer. And they thought to themselves, it must be true. This must be a magical barrel of beer, which never ends. Oh, if Egger was here, he would love it. He loves his bitter, he did. Especially Guinness, though. But, and then, a few days passed, and they tried to drink the barrel dry, and nothing happened. It remained the same weight. And no matter how many times they drank from the beer barrel, there was always beer inside of it. And this happened for days and weeks and months went past. And at no point, could they drink the barrel dry. And so, months went past and years. And Olaf at this stage, after many years, a dozen years went past, was very grey and long in the beard. And he's getting frail now, getting old. He had one last adventure left in him. You go raiding and hopefully die a good death on the battlefield. Because he was an alderman by this stage. And very highly respected. And of course, if there was a battle, he would lead his men into battle. And he was hoping for a good, glorious death to go to Valhalla, as the Vikings called it, or Valhalla. And of course, many years went past. And he needed a new servant girl, because the old servant girl got too old and she died. You know, because he had a good wife, he was younger than him, and she needed a servant girl. So he interviewed a few of the local women and decided on this blonde woman, we'll call her Helga, and she started working for him. And she heard about this beer barrel. You know, everybody in the whole area had heard about this beer barrel being magical. And one day, she was very curious. She said, I'm going to open this barrel to see what's in it and determine the magic. Because she was also a witch. And she thought, if I could figure out the magic, I could have that myself. Because some people are selfish and they want it all themselves. There's a moral in this story. I'm sure there is. And so when his lordship was away, Halfdan the brave, Halfdan the big man himself, the big Viking, she got an axe and she managed to prise the lid of the barrel. And what do you think she found inside? Leave it in a comment what you think she found. I'll let you ponder that for a few seconds as I poke my fire. What do you think she found in the barrel, folks? Do you think she found, you know, a load of beer? Perhaps she found something very, you know, something else in the beer barrel. Perhaps it was wine. You know, perhaps it was very strangely going to be cider. Or shandy, you know, watered down beer. Or some magical device like a magical hat. You know, that made beer. Imagine having a magical hat that made beer. Oh, good God, I wish I had one of them in my life. I won't go out again. So she opened up the barrel with an axe. You know, I've got an axe here, but not this axe. This is a tree felling axe. You never know when you want one of them in your life. And she prized up the lid. Managed to get the lid open. It was quite well jammed in, to be fair, but she was a determined woman. And to her horror, to her surprise, she found that the barrel, and can you guess? Have you left it in a comment? What's in the barrel? Because I'm going to read the comments after this. I want to see your comments and your thoughts and your guesses. To her horror, to her surprise, and she screamed, "Ah!" A squeamish scream, but they're not deafened you there. To her surprise, the barrel was full. Have you guessed it? The barrel was full of frogs. And that was the magic of the barrel and the tale of the Troll's Ale. And of course this lordship came back half done from going hunting with his big gauntlet and his bird of prey. As you saw, the barrel had been opened, and he too looked in and saw that the barrel was full of all these live frogs, and he was horrified that he had been drinking ale made by the magic of frogs. And if this was true, I'd be down my pond right now collecting frogs and put them in a barrel, but of course it won't happen because I'm not a troll and I'm not a magician. It's magic. Or was it? And that, as we say in storytelling, is the end of this tale. At the end of this live stream. And if you have got to this point of the live stream, then you are truly tremendous and truly awesome. And I salute you, and I wish you good health, was hail, as the Saxons would say, and may the god Thor give you strength, and may the god Woden, or Odin, give you much wisdom. And if you on your travels ever find a magical beer that never ends and never runs dry, then I urge you to invite me to your party. Goodbye from Bragi, goodbye from this Viking, by this Hearthside, and until the next time we meet again on the channel, I wish you adieu. Goodbye, folks. Leave a like and leave a comment, and if you're new to the channel, then make sure that you are subscribed, and most importantly, click the notification bell. And if there's one thing I can ask you, that's two things. If there's one thing I can ask you to do before I do end this live stream, is please, please, please share our videos. By sharing our videos, we will reach a wider audience, and the content will get better and better and better. And everything comes in threes in the Norse world in magic. So, yes, please do that for us. Goodbye.